Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Pokemon X and Y news segment wherein I will dissect the latest information we have received from the Nintendo Direct, more specifically Pokemon Direct that occurred today, 4th of September 2013, and there's some news. There's not a huge amount that is groundbreaking, but there's a lot of interesting stuff, so let's get straight into it. So I will kick it off with what is to me the most interesting aspect of this announcement, and that is that the three starters from the Kanto region, that is the starters from Red, Blue and Yellow, Blastoise, Charizard and Venusaur, will be getting Mega Evolutions. We have seen so far quite a few Pokemon, I believe 6 or so, receive Mega Evolutions, and these are 3 more. And ladies and gentlemen, there could be a precedent set for just every single Pokemon getting a Mega Evolution. Something that was said during the actual video was that they couldn't wait to see what all the Mega Evolutions look like all Pokemon look like with Mega Evolution. So it was somewhat implied that potentially every Pokemon will have one of these forms, which could be ridiculous. I mean, if you think about it, there are currently over 600 Pokemon in the decks, meaning that adding the Pokemon, the new ones from X and Y, and adding Mega Evolutions to all the final forms, it could be ridiculous. The number could explode exponentially, and we could be in a situation where it's just getting out of control. Pokemon already is pretty much out of control in terms of the numbers available to you, but this just makes it even more so. Now, we don't have a huge amount of footage really showing off these new forms, so I can't really give you a very well-rounded opinion of what they look like. But however, I will say that Blastoise having fucking hand cannons on his arms is definitely an improvement, and I eagerly await watching him tear people to pieces on the battlefield. So, moving on from that, let's talk about competitive, eh? Because they did reveal after the presentation certain abilities, namely the abilities of the Mega Evolutions. And we have had some very interesting Mega Evolution abilities so far, Lucario with adaptability being at the forefront. But now, ladies and gentlemen, shit's going crazy. Charizard has drought. Charizard is now another weather inducer. Ladies and gentlemen, if you thought that weather was a fucking pain in 5th gen, prepare to be just filled with more and more weather, because Charizard now has drought. This is certainly going to be a massive boost to it, you know. There is the potential that it could go OU, stay OU. It does unfortunately still have the horrific Stealth Rock weakness, which one can't really get past. Just hamstrings these kind of Pokemon, you know, Moltres, Charizard, Articuno, they all suffer the same fate. But the fact that it has drought is a huge boon. And as we saw last generation, Ninetales and Politoed nowhere near OU. Nowhere near, and suddenly you give them the ability which just rules all abilities, and they are rocketed to the top. So it's cool. I mean, it gives you another choice. It means that you aren't forced into using Ninetales if you want to induce some sun. And with this news apparent, it seems that there's going to be more drought as well. How about some more hail? Maybe that would be cool. Perhaps Abomasnow won't be the only thing running around with hail. That would be nice. I'd like to see that. But holy shit, this is kind of big, honestly, and I'm very interested to see how it plays out. Moving on, we did find out that Venusaur has the ability Thick Fat, which is a pretty massive boon, honestly. When you think about the fact that Venusaur is weak to both fire and ice, and that those are very common offensive moves, then it seems like a fantastic thing. You know, defensively, this thing could be pretty great. It does have still the weakness to flying and psychic, but as I said, you know, ice and fire are much more commonly seen as offensive moves. So if you're looking on the defensive end with a Thick Fat Venusaur, I think that could be fantastic. You know, Venusaur already has fantastic special defense. Its HP's not too shabby, and you can buff out its defense if you want to throw some EVs into that department, make it more rounded. But you know, for one thing, it'll just be able to take hits better if you want to run it offensively. And it seems maybe these Mega Evolutions do seem to be more offensive than defensive, as from what we've seen so far. Although we don't actually have concrete stats, so we can't have any proper evidence to back that up. But I do feel like this is a pretty awesome touch, awesome ability, and Venusaur will benefit greatly from it. It's not as groundbreaking, game-changing as Charizard with Drought, but hey, it's a bonus, it's a boon, and it will be all the better for it. Now, Blastoise is kind of the odd one out here, because he was given an ability that we have never seen before, a brand new ability by the name of Mega Launcher, which the vague description is that it boosts his moves. Boost all his moves. Now, I'm not quite sure if that means it's going to boost stab moves or just any offensive moves that he carries, but if it's just a straight up boost like stab is to every single one of his moves, that could be pretty big also. You know, stab is a massive factor in the competitive side of things, and if you can imagine having that on top of a boost that's inherent, you get things like Water Spout, you're running Scarfstoise with, you know, not only the stab boost, but also the boost from his ability, which would be fucking nuts. It'd be really awesome, considering also the presence of rain. Wow, that would be a mini Megaton, one might say. But of course, we don't actually know what Mega Launcher does. It's kind of vague so far, so I can't really give you a full-formed opinion of how game-changing it really will be. But, you know, that's also, thinking about it right now, you couldn't run Scarf Blastoise with its Mega Evolution, because as we know, every single Mega Evolution does have to hold their specific item. This is something that I feel will hamstring a few of the Pokemon, because items are such an important part, a vital part of the competitive scene, and some Pokemon can be flipped around and kind of cast aside without the item in their possession. So that could also be a thing to, you know, think about for future. But for now, that's all we really know about Mega Launcher, about Blastoise, and about the other Pokemon and their new abilities. So let's move on to something else, I guess. So, prior to the Mega Evolutions being shown, it was also announced that the starter Pokemon from Red, Blue, and Yellow, as you can see, Bulbasaur, Charizard, and Squirtle, will also be available from the very beginning, essentially, in Pokemon X and Y, meaning that not only will you have the starters from the Kalos region, but you will have access to 3 other starters, being these guys, which is really cool. You know, I'm not super excited that they chose the Kanto starters, because, you know, the thing with Pokemon, and they play on nostalgia a lot, and the thing is that a lot of people have nostalgia for the original 150, and a lot of people really care about, you know, the faces, the original faces of Pokemon, which these 3 certainly were a big part of. But for me personally, for someone who is, you know, more into the series and has more familiarity with it, I would have preferred perhaps that they bring in either the 2nd gen starters or the 3rd gen starters, something a little bit more obscure and something that would be a bit more interesting than just giving us the 1st gen guys again, because God knows we've seen them enough times over the years, and I would have liked something different. But I'm not going to complain about it. I mean, if you're getting 2 starters off the bat, it means that you get 2 choices of, you know, the Fire, Water, Grass core, and it'll bulk out your team pretty nicely. I'm not going to lie, it's going to be some good additions there. Now, aside from all that, there are a couple of more less interesting announcements made, to me anyway. You know, I'm sure other people care about them a great deal, but not really in my highest interest. So, the new application Pokemon Bank was revealed, which will be something that you can download from the eShop for the 3DS, wherein you'll be able to store a huge amount of Pokemon. The total, I believe, is 3,000 Pokemon, being 100 boxes of storage space, which is really massive. It's much more than you really need, because there are nowhere near that many Pokemon in existence, and so you'll have a lot of space for extra stuff and everything. Kind of like a storage, kind of cloud-based storage thing, and that is exactly what it is. It is a cloud-based storage system, which you will have to, in fact, pay for. Now, this is somewhat a little bit controversial, I guess, but it is going to be an annual fee. This is a server-based operation, which means that Nintendo does have to pay to keep those things in shape and keep the cloud running. So it will be, in Japan, it has been said to be 500 yen, which is equivalent to around $5. I'm not sure how that will translate when the pricing model comes over to the US and to Europe, in fact. But it doesn't seem like a huge amount. It's going to be, you know, something that if you really want to have it, then it's not going to be a hindrance to you every year paying such a small amount of money. But you know, it would be nice to just pay a larger amount up front and then have it indefinitely. I would kind of prefer that system because this is not really something that I subscribe to. Lol, subscribe to because it's a subscription based. Anyway, so that's that. What's a little bit more interesting, perhaps, is the Pokemon Transporter system, which is another application that you'll have to download to your 3DS, which will allow you to transport your Pokemon from Black and White and Black and White 2 into the newer games, into X and Y via Pokemon Bank. It will essentially grab Pokemon from your cartridge, pop them into the application, and then from the application send it to Pokemon Bank, where you can put it into your X and Y game. So technically, they are being a little bit money grabbing with this because they force you to use Pokemon Bank in order to get your Black and White 2 Pokemon into X and Y. So if you care about that whatsoever, you do have to at least pay up front for Pokemon Bank. You can unsubscribe as soon as you've already transferred everything, but that is kind of a bit of a gate that they're putting in front of you, which I don't appreciate. Now, they also made mention that you will not be able to transfer any hacked Pokemon, meaning that all of us competitive people who have, you know, legitimately hacked Pokemon will unfortunately have to try and make everything extremely legitimate in order to transfer it across. I'm pretty sure there are various ways to make it look legit enough to where it will recognize it as a real Pokemon and not one that has been created in PokeGen. And that will just be a little bit more of a pain, honestly, because there's currently no solution for the 3DS in terms of, you know, PokeGen or PokeSav or any kind of way of transferring hacked Pokemon to those games. Perhaps in the future, but for now, that's, I guess, what we're going to have to rely on. So, a little bit of an annoying situation to be in, but so be it. Anyway, that's going to be that for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Do leave a like if you enjoyed, that is much appreciated. And of course, do give me your opinions, thoughts, comments, theories, all down in the comment section below. What do you think of Charizard having Drought? What do you think of Venusaur with Thick Fat? And what the fuck is Mega Launcher actually going to do? Tell me. I want to know. I would like to hear your opinions, and they are always appreciated. So type down, get your keyboard out, start hammering away, and we'll have a nice conversation about all this brand new news. That's going to be that. Thank you very much for watching again, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.